Hello and welcome. This is just a brief video explanation of the education narrative assignment, just to supplement the assignment instructions that you'll find on Moodle. You'll also find a student example on Moodle, which was written by a real TroCare student. So that gives you kind of just a general sense of what the expectations are. Um, but anyway, the assignment. And so first of all, given this is the first uh, essay of the course, I just want to be clear about a couple things about just writing in general. And so one thing is, writing is not a grammar test. I don't have you write essays because I want to sit there with a red pen and find all your mistakes. The point of writing is to communicate ideas. And in all your classes, that's really what professors are looking for. They're looking to see that you can communicate ideas clearly. And so that's what I'm focused on. We'll talk about grammar a little bit this semester, but really, they're just a handful of grammar things to be aware of. But really, what we're thinking about with college writing is two things: thinking before you write, and having something thoughtful to say, and communicating clearly. And so that's what we're looking to do, basically. So that's the goal, is to communicate clearly. And so the education narrative, we start out, you can kind of tell a story about yourself. Most students find it easier to write about themselves than writing about, texts, doing research and all that stuff. That'll come a bit later. So anyway, just to get into it, the due dates. You're going to have to look at the syllabus to see the due dates. They'll all be there, and pretty much for every essay we do, we're going to go through a process, and the process kind of begins with an outline where you kind of get your ideas down. Then you have a rough draft, and then on your rough draft, you're going to do a peer review. You're going to get feedback from me. You're going to get feedback from your peers, and then you're going to have time to revise, and then you're going to submit a final draft for the grade. And so we're going to go through the whole process before you submit the final draft for a grade. But all those due dates you'll find on the syllabus. Okay, in the basic format, and so the final draft needs to be 1,250 words, which is roughly 4 pages double spaced. It's going to be set up in MLA format. Um, 1 inch margin is 12-point font, double spaced, all that good stuff. We'll be covering in MLA format in the first couple of weeks. Okay, and so those are the basics. And so, what are you writing about? And so, I'm sure you know a narrative is when someone tells a story. And so, an education narrative, it's a story about your education in some way. And so, one thing I want to do is be as open minded as I can about kind of what you write about. Because what's important to me in this class is that you think of something that is in some way interesting or meaningful for you, if and when possible. Um, because really, if you can do that, uh, that's one of the key ingredients to good writing. Because you're engaged with what you're doing, you care about what you're doing. If you're writing about something that's meaningful to you. So anyway, education narrative. Um, I'm pretty open-minded in terms of what you want to write about. And so you can write about anything that has to do with your education. Um, Pretty much. And one thing I'm not going to read this whole thing to you, but one thing I say down here too is that you could even think of informal education. So you don't even have to think about like experiences that had happened to you in school. You could talk about things you learned outside of school. Did you learn any life lessons through experience? Did you learn valuable skills on a job or in another community organization? Have you mastered a skill or body of knowledge because you're passionate about a certain subject or a certain hobby, something like that? So, education isn't just something that happens in school. People learn things outside of school all the time, right? I'm sure you all have learned plenty of things outside of school. So I'm super open minded about this. If you want to write about your kind of formal education, that's also good. I have some prompts up here. Um, I always invite students to be kind of critical of their education if you want to be critical, because we have some schools that you know students have not the greatest experiences in, but students also have great experiences. So do you want to kind of write about some of the negative experiences? Do you want to write about the positive experiences? It's kind of up to you. One thing I always say about this, and students generally agree. It can be kind of therapeutic, and part of the reason why I do this essay at the beginning is because you're all getting a fresh start now. And so, if you had difficulties with your education in the past, this can be a good time to get it off your chest. It's therapeutic. It's like a little bit of a therapy session. If you had bad experiences in school, you can kind of write them down and get it out of your system and be ready for a fresh start. But hopefully, I hope you all had nothing but good experiences in education. I mean, I didn't have uh, only good experiences in my education, so I can understand that not everyone has. But totally up to you. What's important to me is that you think of something that's meaningful to you, and that you put the effort into communicating that story clearly. And that's what it says down here. You know, um, okay, and one other thing, and so you're telling a story, and so when you're telling a story, you shouldn't just be you know, saying what happened, you should also be saying something about kind of what did that event mean to you. And so when you think about your thesis statement, you shouldn't just be saying like this happened. I played basketball. Okay, I played basketball. And this is what we did. Okay, but I want you to think about what did it mean to you. So you might say, I played basketball. I made connections with a bunch of people who became really good friends, and being around that environment kept me motivated to keep going and to do well academically or something like that. So think about what the experience meant to you as well, and that should be the story should be a way to communicate kind of an idea rather than just kind of telling me things that happened. And so that's kind of what you're striving to do. Tell a story, explain what it means to you, and communicate it as clearly as you can. And so, under purpose, I just say, like I said a moment ago, most students find it easier to write about themselves than to write about complex, articles and all this kind of thing. So it's a good way to start out just to practice the writing process. We can clear up any grammar problems that there might be, um, and all that kind of stuff. And we're going to go through the writing process in this methodical way. And so it's good practice, and I hope you find it therapeutic. I really hope you can find something to write about that's interesting to you. And down here, there's a rubric. I'm not going to read the rubric to you, but it just goes through what I just said. Did you take time to think about it? Did you take time to communicating clearly? And then we'll talk about what kind of grammar you should be kind of aware of in terms of fixing it. So I'm going to leave it there. Please let me know if you have any questions.